The crystal towers of Kelly Prime stretched toward the purple sky like frozen lightning. Inside the tallest spire, Princess Nira stood before the massive windows of the throne room, watching the ships of the human fleet dock at the orbital stations above. Her blue skin shimmered with nervous energy, and her 4 arms trembled slightly as she adjusted her ceremonial robes. "Daughter, come forward," Emperor Vex commanded from his throne. His voice echoed through the vast chamber, bouncing off walls carved from living stone that pulsed with soft light. Nira turned and walked across the polished floor toward her father. The Emperor of the Kellian Empire sat on his throne of woven starlight, his 6 eyes focused intently on her. Around the throne room, dozens of advisors and military commanders watched in silence. Their faces showed the same expression, worry mixed with hope. "The human delegation has arrived," the Emperor said. "Today we make history. Today we join our empire with the forces of Earth to face the Void Fleet together." General Rax stepped forward from the circle of advisors. His scarred face bore the marks of many battles. "Your Majesty, our scouts report the Void Fleet grows stronger each day. They have consumed 12 solar systems in the past month. We need this alliance." Nira nodded, though her heart felt heavy. She had known this day would come since childhood. Royal children were tools of diplomacy, their marriages designed to forge alliances and secure peace. But knowing something and living it were different things entirely. "Bring in the human representative," Emperor Vex ordered. The great doors of the throne room opened with a deep rumble. A single human male walked through, flanked by 2 Kellian guards. Nira studied him carefully as he approached. She had seen images of humans before, but never met one in person. The human was shorter than any adult Kellian, standing barely 2 meters tall. His skin was a warm brown color, and he had only 2 arms and 2 legs like all his species. Dark hair covered the top of his head, and his face showed neither fear nor arrogance as he walked toward the throne. He wore simple clothes, dark pants and a white shirt, rather than the elaborate uniforms most diplomatic visitors preferred. "I present Leo of Earth, chosen representative of the Human Alliance," announced the guard captain. Leo stopped before the throne and bowed his head respectfully, but not too deeply. It was the perfect amount of respect, acknowledging the Emperor's position without showing weakness or submission. "Your Majesty," Leo said in clear Kellian language, though his accent marked him as an outsider. "I am honored to stand before you and grateful for your willingness to unite our peoples against a common threat." Emperor Vex leaned forward on his throne. "Leo of Earth, you have traveled far from your small blue world. Do you understand why you are here?" "I do, Your Majesty. I am here to marry your daughter, Princess Nira, and seal the alliance between our peoples." The words hit Nira like cold water. Even though she had expected them, hearing the arrangement spoken so plainly made it real in a way that frightened her. She looked at Leo more carefully, trying to see the man she was supposed to spend her life with. He was not ugly by human standards, she supposed. His features were regular and pleasant. His eyes were a dark brown color that seemed warm and intelligent. But he was still alien to her, still a stranger from a species most Kellians considered primitive and backward. "Princess Nira," her father called. "Come and meet your intended husband." Nira's legs felt unsteady as she walked toward Leo. The entire court watched her every move. She stopped 2 meters away from the human and studied his face. Leo looked back at her with those brown eyes, and she saw something unexpected there, kindness, but also sadness. "Princess," Leo said, bowing to her. "It is an honor to meet you." "The honor is mine," Nira replied automatically, using the formal words she had been taught since childhood. Emperor Vex clapped his hands together. "Excellent. The marriage ceremony will take place in 3 days. This will give our peoples time to celebrate and prepare. General Rax, begin coordination with the human fleet commanders immediately. We must move quickly once the alliance is sealed." "Wait," Nira said, the word escaping her lips before she could stop it. The entire throne room fell silent. Emperor Vex's 6 eyes narrowed as he looked at his daughter. What did you say? Nira felt heat rise in her cheeks, making her blue skin darken. I said wait, father. Might I speak with my intended husband privately before the ceremony? It is traditional for betrothed couples to have time to know each other. Several advisors began whispering among themselves. The tradition Nira mentioned was real, but it was usually just a formality, an hour or two of supervised conversation before the marriage. Emperor Vex considered for a long moment. Very well. You may have until tomorrow evening to become acquainted. But remember, daughter, the fate of both our peoples rests on this alliance. Do not let personal feelings endanger the future of our empire. Leo spoke up. Your Majesty, I would be grateful for the opportunity to know the princess better. A strong marriage makes for a stronger alliance. The Emperor nodded. Wise words, human. Captain Zek will escort you both to the garden chambers. You may speak freely there. As the court began to disperse, Nira felt panic rising in her chest. Tomorrow evening seemed impossibly soon. In less than 2 days, she would be married to this stranger, bound to him for life, all for the sake of politics and war. Captain Zek led them through the winding corridors of the palace to a set of rooms overlooking the crystal gardens. The chambers were designed for private meetings, with comfortable seating and walls that blocked sound from traveling beyond the room. I will wait outside, Captain Zek said. Call if you need anything. When the door closed, leaving them alone, Nira finally felt the weight of her situation crash down on her. She sank into a chair and buried her face in her hands. To her surprise and shame, tears began flowing down her cheeks. Princess, are you all right? Leo asked gently. Nira looked up at him through her tears. The human had not moved closer or tried to touch her. He stood near the door, his hands at his sides, his face full of concern. No, she said, her voice breaking. No, I am not all right. I cannot do this. I cannot marry you. Leo was quiet for a moment. Then he walked across the room and sat in a chair across from her, maintaining a respectful distance. Why not? He asked softly. The question surprised her. She had expected him to be angry, or to remind her of her duty, or to threaten her with the consequences of breaking the alliance. Because I do not love you, she said, the words tumbling out. Because I do not know you. Because you are human and I am Kellyan and we are too different. Because I have dreams and plans for my life that do not include marriage to someone I have never met. Leo nodded slowly. Those are all very good reasons. Nira stared at him. You agree with me? Of course I do. Marriage should be about love and partnership, not politics. You have every right to object. But the alliance, Nira said weakly. The war against the Void Fleet. Without our combined forces, both our peoples will be destroyed. Leo leaned back in his chair. Tell me about yourself, princess. What are those dreams and plans you mentioned? For a moment, Nira could not speak. No one had ever asked her that question before. Not her father, not her tutors, not the advisors who planned her future. She was a princess, and princesses were expected to marry well and produce heirs. Their personal desires were irrelevant. I am a scientist, she said finally. I study energy fields and defensive systems. I have been working on new shield technology that could protect entire fleets from enemy weapons. Leo's eyes lit up with interest. That sounds incredible. How does it work? You really want to know? Nira asked, surprised. Of course. Energy field manipulation sounds fascinating. And so Nira found herself explaining her research to this strange human man. She told him about quantum field harmonics and multidimensional barriers. She described her experiments with crystalline matrices and the problems she had been having with power distribution. Leo listened carefully, asking intelligent questions and making suggestions that showed he understood the concepts even though his species was supposedly primitive. He seemed genuinely excited about her work, more excited than anyone had ever been before. Your father dismisses this research? Leo asked. He says it is not suitable work for a princess. He believes I should focus on learning to run a household and raise children, not waste time with scientific experiments. But this technology could save lives, Leo said. It could protect both human and Kellyan fleets from the void weapons. Exactly, Nira said, feeling a spark of hope. If I could just convince him to let me continue my research, to give me access to the Imperial laboratories and funding for full-scale tests. Maybe I can help with that, Leo said quietly. Nira looked at him in confusion. How? Leo was quiet for a long moment, staring out the window at the crystal gardens. I need to tell you something, princess. Something about why I agreed to this marriage. What do you mean? I volunteered for this mission, Leo said. When the Earth Council asked for someone to marry into the Kellyan royal family, I put my name forward. Nira felt her heart sink. Because you want power? A crown? No, Leo said, turning to look at her directly. Because I lost someone in the first void attack on our outer colonies. Someone I loved very much. Her name was Anna, and she was a scientist too. She was working on defensive systems when the Void Fleet destroyed her research station. Nira felt tears threaten again, but this time they were tears of sympathy rather than despair. I came here hoping to help prevent other people from losing what I lost, Leo continued. But I never wanted to force someone else into a loveless marriage to do it. That would not honor Anna's memory. I am sorry for your loss, Nira said softly. Thank you. And I am sorry that you are being forced into this situation. No one should have to sacrifice their dreams for politics, even royal children. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the light from Kelly Prime's twin suns play across the crystal formations in the garden. What do we do now? Nira asked finally. Leo stood up and walked to the window. I do not know yet. But I promise you this, I will not force you to marry me against your will. We will find another way to save both our peoples, one that does not require you to give up everything you care about. As Nira watched this human man who had traveled across the galaxy to marry her, she felt something she had not expected, respect. And perhaps the beginning of hope. The next morning brought surprising news. Leo had requested permission to visit the Kellyan Cultural Archives and learn about their history. Emperor Vex, pleased by this show of respect for their traditions, granted the request immediately. Most humans who visit our world only want to see our military technology, General Rax told the Emperor as they watched Leo walk toward the archive building. This one seems different. Princess Nira watched from her tower window as Leo spent hours in the archives, reading about Kellyan science, art, and philosophy. She had expected him to use their time to pressure her about the marriage or to complain to her father about her reluctance. Instead, he seemed genuinely interested in understanding her people. Later that day, Captain Zek brought Nira a message from Leo asking if she would join him for the evening meal. Not a formal dinner with the court, but a simple meal in the garden chambers where they could continue their conversation from the day before. Nira agreed, curious about what this strange human was planning. When she arrived at the chambers, she found Leo had arranged a modest meal of foods from both Earth and Kelly Prime. He had somehow learned which Kellyan dishes she preferred and had asked the kitchen staff to prepare them alongside human foods he thought she might find interesting. I hope you do not mind, Leo said as she entered. I wanted to learn more about your culture, and food is often a good place to start. They ate together, and Leo asked her questions about Kellyan customs, their government, their arts, and their science. His questions were thoughtful and showed real interest in understanding rather than just gathering information. Tell me more about your shield research, Leo said as they finished eating. Yesterday you mentioned problems with power distribution. What kind of problems? Nira felt her excitement return as she began explaining. The quantum field harmonics work perfectly in small tests, but when I try to scale them up to protect something the size of a starship, the power requirements become enormous. The energy drains too quickly. Leo listened carefully, asking questions about the mathematical formulas and the crystalline matrices she used to focus the energy fields. On Earth, we have similar problems with our defensive systems, Leo said. We use something called distributed power coupling. Instead of one massive energy source, we use multiple smaller sources linked together. Multiple sources? Nira asked. But how do you keep them synchronized? Leo picked up a data pad and began sketching diagrams. His drawings were simple but clear, showing how human engineers used networks of smaller power generators instead of single large ones. Nira studied the diagrams with growing excitement. This could work, she said, her voice rising. If I modified the crystal arrays to accept multiple input streams instead of one massive flow. Would you show me your laboratory? Leo asked. I would love to see your equipment. Nira hesitated. My laboratory is in the old tower. It is not very impressive. And my father does not like me spending too much time there. I would still like to see it, if you are willing to show me. The next morning, Nira led Leo through the winding corridors of the palace to the ancient tower that housed her makeshift laboratory. The room was filled with crystalline formations, energy measurement devices, and half-finished experiments scattered across several work tables. This is incredible, Leo said, looking around the room with genuine amazement. You built all of this yourself? Most of it, Nira said, feeling embarrassed by the cluttered space. The palace engineers help sometimes, but they do not really understand what I am trying to accomplish. Leo walked around the room, examining her equipment with the eye of someone who understood scientific work. He stopped at a table covered with crystal arrays arranged in complex patterns. These are your shield generators, he asked. The prototypes, yes. They can create a defensive barrier around objects up to the size of a small shuttle, but anything larger causes the system to overload. Leo studied the crystals for several minutes. What if we tried the distributed approach here? Instead of one large array, we could use several smaller ones working together. I have thought of that, Nira said, but the timing has to be perfect. If the arrays are even microseconds out of sync, they interfere with each other instead of reinforcing. Human computers are very good at precise timing, Leo said thoughtfully. We use them to coordinate our spacecraft systems. What if we combined human computer technology with your crystal arrays? Nira felt a spark of excitement. That might actually work. Your computers could handle the synchronization while our crystals generate the actual field energy. Would you like to try it? Leo asked. For the next 3 days, Nira and Leo worked together in the laboratory. Leo had brought technical specifications for human computer systems, and Nira adapted her crystal arrays to interface with them. The work was challenging and required both of them to learn new concepts, but they found they worked well together. Leo approached problems differently than any Kellyan Nira had worked with before. Where Kellyan scientists preferred elegant theoretical solutions, Leo focused on practical results. He was willing to try ideas that seemed crude or simple if they might work. Humans are not as advanced as Kellyans, Leo admitted as they calibrated the interface between his computer and her crystals, but we are good at making things work with whatever we have available. That is not a weakness, Nira said, watching the energy reading stabilize. Sometimes the simple solution is the best solution. As they worked, Nira found herself learning about more than just human technology. Leo told her stories about Earth, about the diversity of human cultures and the way humans valued individual achievement and creativity. On Earth, scientists are celebrated, Leo said. Men and women who make discoveries or invent new technologies are honored by their communities. Gender and social class do not matter if someone has brilliant ideas. Here, women can be scientists, Nira said, but royal women are expected to focus on marriage and family. My father thinks my research is a hobby, something to keep me busy until I fulfill my real purpose. Your real purpose is whatever you choose it to be, Leo said firmly. No one else has the right to decide that for you. On the 4th day of their collaboration, they achieved their first major breakthrough. The distributed crystal arrays, synchronized by human computers, successfully generated a shield strong enough to protect a building-sized area. The power consumption was manageable, and the field remained stable for over an hour. "It works," Nira whispered, staring at the readings on her instruments. "It actually works." Leo smiled, and Nira realized it was the first time she had seen him truly happy since he arrived on Kelly Prime. "This could change everything," he said. "Ships protected by this technology could survive direct hits from void weapons." "We need to show my father," Nira said, then paused. "But he will not understand. He will see this as proof that I should abandon my research and focus on being a proper princess." "Then we do not show him yet," Leo said. "We continue working and make the technology so impressive that he cannot ignore its importance." Over the following days, their partnership deepened. Leo proved to be not just a willing assistant but a valuable collaborator who brought fresh perspectives to problems Nira had been struggling with for months. His practical approach to engineering complemented her theoretical knowledge perfectly. More importantly, Nira began to see that Leo respected her mind in a way that no one else ever had. He did not treat her research as a cute hobby or something she should eventually outgrow. He understood that her work was important, not just to her personally but to the survival of both their peoples. "Why did you really volunteer for this mission?" Nira asked one evening as they worked late in the laboratory. Leo was quiet for a moment, adjusting the power flow to one of the crystal arrays. "I told you about Anna, the woman I loved who died in the void attack." "Yes. She would have loved this," Leo said, gesturing at their work. "She would have been fascinated by your crystal technology and excited about combining it with our computers. Working with you on this project feels like honoring her memory in a way that just fighting the Void Fleet never could." "You miss her very much," Nira observed. "Every day. But being here, working on something that could save lives, helping you achieve your goals, it makes the pain more bearable." Nira felt something shift in her feelings toward Leo. This was not the political marriage she had dreaded. This man understood loss and purpose and the importance of scientific discovery. He valued her work not because she was a princess but because it was genuinely valuable. "Leo," she said carefully, "when we first met, I told you I could not marry you because I did not love you. I remember." "I still do not love you," she said, "but I am beginning to understand you. And to respect you." Leo looked up from his work and met her eyes. "Respect is a good foundation for many things," he said quietly. "Love, friendship, partnership. It is more than most arranged marriages start with." "Is that enough for you?" Nira asked. "Respect and shared purpose instead of love?" "It is more than I expected when I volunteered for this mission," Leo admitted. "And much more than most diplomatic marriages ever achieve." That night, as Nira returned to her chambers, she found herself thinking not about the burden of an unwanted marriage but about the exciting possibilities their continued collaboration might bring. For the first time since her father announced the engagement, she felt something approaching hope. The next morning brought alarming news. Scout ships reported that the Void Fleet had accelerated their advance and would reach the outer systems weeks earlier than expected. The military alliance between Earth and the Kellyan Empire could not wait much longer. Emperor Vex summoned both Nira and Leo to the throne room. "The wedding must take place tomorrow," he announced. "We cannot delay any longer. The survival of both our peoples depends on this alliance." Nira felt her newfound hope crumble. Tomorrow was too soon. She and Leo had only just begun to understand each other, and their shield technology was still in the early stages of development. "Father," she began, but the Emperor held up a hand to silence her. "There will be no more delays, daughter. The decision is final." As they left the throne room, Nira felt tears threatening again. Just when she had begun to see a possible future with Leo, circumstances were forcing them back into the political arrangement she had feared from the beginning. "We will figure this out," Leo said quietly as they walked toward her chambers. "Trust me." But Nira was not sure how anyone could figure out a solution when they had less than 24 hours before her father would expect her to become a wife instead of a scientist. The alarm bells of Kelly Prime began ringing at dawn, their deep tones echoing across the Crystal City. Princess Nira woke to the sound and immediately knew something terrible had happened. These were not the ceremonial bells meant to announce her wedding day. These were the warning bells that meant danger. She rushed to her window and saw the orbital defense platforms activating their weapons systems. In the distance, emergency shuttles were launching from the military bases. The purple sky flickered with the energy discharges of defensive shields powering up around the planet. A messenger arrived at her door within minutes. "Princess, your father commands your immediate presence in the war room. The Void Fleet has been detected at the edge of our solar system." Nira's heart sank as she hurried through the palace corridors. The Void Fleet was not supposed to arrive for another month. All their plans, all their preparations, were suddenly meaningless. The war room buzzed with activity when she entered. Holographic displays showed the approaching enemy fleet, dozens of dark ships that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Emperor Vex stood at the center of the room, his 6 eyes focused on the tactical displays while generals and admirals shouted reports from their stations. "How many ships?" the Emperor demanded. 43 confirmed vessels, Your Majesty," General Rax replied. "Our long-range sensors indicate they are the advanced destroyer class. Our current defenses will not hold against them." Leo stood near one of the communication stations, speaking quietly with a human admiral whose image flickered on the screen. The Earth fleet had moved into defensive positions around the outer planets, but everyone in the room knew they were vastly outnumbered. "The human fleet reports ready for battle," Leo announced to the room. "Admiral Chen says her ships will buy us as much time as possible, but without the shield technology upgrades we discussed, they cannot withstand sustained void attacks." Emperor Vex turned to face Leo and Nira. "This changes our timeline completely. The marriage ceremony must take place immediately. We need the formal alliance sealed before the battle begins." "Father," Nira began, but he cut her off with a sharp gesture. "Not now, daughter. Captain Zek, prepare the emergency wedding ceremony. We will perform the ritual in the command center so I can oversee both the alliance and our defense preparations." Nira felt panic rising in her chest. Everything was moving too fast. The wedding, the battle, the fate of both civilizations, it was all colliding together in a way that left no room for choice or consideration. "Your Majesty," Leo said, stepping forward from the communication station. "I need to speak with you about the wedding." "Speak quickly," the Emperor replied without looking away from the tactical displays. "We have little time. I cannot marry Princess Nira." The words hit the war room like a physical blow. Every conversation stopped. Every person in the room turned to stare at Leo. Emperor Vex's 6 eyes fixed on the human with an expression of shocked fury. "What did you say?" Leo stood straighter, meeting the Emperor's gaze without flinching. "I said I cannot marry your daughter, Your Majesty. I am breaking the engagement contract." General Rax stepped forward, his hand moving to his weapon. "Human, do you understand what you are saying? Without this alliance, both our peoples will be destroyed." "I understand perfectly," Leo said calmly. "But I also understand that Princess Nira has developed technology that could save both our fleets. Technology that is far more valuable than any political marriage." Nira stared at Leo in amazement. She could not believe he was doing this, especially now, with the enemy fleet approaching and everyone watching. "The shield technology Princess Nira has been working on could protect our ships from void weapons," Leo continued. "She has made a breakthrough that could change the course of this war. But instead of supporting her research, you want to force her into a marriage that will prevent her from completing this vital work." "My daughter's experiments are not ready for battle," Emperor Vex said dismissively. "They are theoretical exercises, not practical weapons." "They are ready," Leo said firmly. "I have been working with her for the past week. The technology works. It can protect ships the size of battle cruisers, and with a few modifications, it could shield entire fleets. The Emperor's expression shifted from anger to confusion. You have been working with Nira? On her research? Yes, Your Majesty. Human-computer technology combined with Kellyan crystal arrays creates a defensive system unlike anything either of our species has developed alone. But Princess Nira needs to be free to focus on this work, not bound to a marriage she does not want. Nira felt tears forming in her eyes, but this time they were not tears of sadness or fear. They were tears of gratitude and amazement. Leo was sacrificing the alliance, risking the anger of both their peoples, to defend her right to choose her own path. You are willing to break this alliance to protect my daughter's research? The Emperor asked. I am willing to break a marriage contract to protect something that could actually save both our civilizations, Leo replied. Princess Nira's work is more important than any political arrangement. She deserves the freedom to complete it. Even if it means both our fleets are destroyed because we cannot coordinate our defense. Leo was quiet for a moment, then he turned to look at Nira. Princess, how quickly could you modify your shield technology to protect the human fleet? Nira's mind raced. The current prototype could shield one large ship, but protecting an entire fleet would require modifications they had not yet tested. With the right equipment and support, maybe 6 hours to adapt the system for multiple ships simultaneously. And how many people would you need to help install it? A technical team of maybe 10 engineers who understand both human and Kellyan systems, Nira said, beginning to understand what Leo was thinking. Leo turned back to Emperor Vex. Your Majesty, I volunteer to lead the technical installation mission. Give Princess Nira the resources she needs, and I will personally ensure the shield technology gets installed on our fleet before the void ships arrive. That mission would be extremely dangerous, General Rax observed. Installing untested technology during a space battle. I know, Leo said simply. But it is the right thing to do. Princess Nira's research could save thousands of lives on both sides. That is more important than my safety or the original marriage plan. Nira stepped forward before her father could respond. I will go with him. Absolutely not, Emperor Vex said immediately. I will not risk my daughter on such a dangerous mission. Father, it is my technology, Nira said firmly. I understand it better than anyone else. If something goes wrong during installation, Leo and his team will need me there to fix it. The princess is right, Leo said. This mission has the best chance of success if she leads the technical team. Emperor Vex looked back and forth between his daughter and the human who had just broken his carefully planned alliance. You are both willing to risk your lives for this experimental technology? Yes, Nira and Leo said at the same time. The Emperor was quiet for a long moment, studying the tactical displays that showed the approaching void fleet. Finally, he turned to General Rax. What is your assessment of this shield technology? I have seen the princess working on energy field research for years, the general replied. If she says it can protect our ships, I believe her. And if the human is willing to risk his life to install it, the technology must be more advanced than we realized. Emperor Vex nodded slowly. Very well. Princess Nira, you have 2 hours to prepare your shield technology for fleet installation. Leo of Earth, you will command the technical installation mission. I am assigning you a team of our best engineers and a fast courier ship. Thank you, Your Majesty, Nira said, feeling a mixture of excitement and terror. Do not thank me yet, daughter. If this mission fails, we will all be destroyed anyway. The next 2 hours passed in a blur of activity. Nira worked frantically to modify her crystal arrays for rapid deployment while Leo coordinated with both human and Kellyan engineers to plan the installation process. The technology was complex, but Leo's practical approach to problem-solving helped them develop procedures that could work even in the middle of a space battle. Are you ready? Leo asked as they boarded the courier ship that would take them to the human fleet. I think so, Nira replied, though her hands were shaking with nervousness. Leo, why did you do it? Why did you break the engagement and risk everything for my research? Leo was quiet as the ship launched from the palace spaceport. Because, he said finally, I realized that forcing you to marry me would not honor the memory of the person I lost. Anna believed that people should be free to follow their dreams and use their talents to help others. Making you give up your research for a political marriage would have been wrong. But the alliance will be stronger if it is built on mutual respect and shared success rather than a forced marriage, Leo finished. If we can make your shield technology work, if we can save both our fleets, then our peoples will be true allies. Not because of a wedding contract, but because we chose to work together. The installation mission was the most challenging thing Neera had ever attempted. Working in zero gravity while enemy ships approached required her to adapt her careful laboratory procedures to the harsh conditions of a military operation. But Leo's team supported her every step of the way, and the human engineers proved remarkably good at making her elegant theoretical work function in practical applications. When the Void Fleet finally arrived and opened fire, the human ships protected by Neera's shields held their defensive line. The energy barriers absorbed direct hits that would have destroyed unprotected vessels. The combined Earth-Kellian fleet not only survived the first assault but managed to drive the attackers away from the inner planets. As their courier ship returned to Kelly Prime after the successful battle, Leo turned to Neera with a tired but genuine smile. Your technology saved both our fleets, he said. You did it. We did it, Neera corrected him. I could never have made this work without your help and your willingness to sacrifice the Alliance for my research. About that, Leo said carefully. Now that the immediate crisis is over, what happens between us? Neera was quiet for a moment, watching the stars through the ship's windows. I have a question for you. Do you still think marriage should be about love and partnership rather than politics? Yes, absolutely. Then I have something to tell you, Neera said, turning to face him. Over the past week, working with you, seeing how you respect my mind and my work, watching you sacrifice your own interests to protect my freedom, I have begun to care for you. Not as a political necessity, but as a person. Leo's eyes widened. Princess. I want to marry you, Neera said firmly. Not because my father commands it, not because our peoples need an alliance, but because I choose to. Because you have shown me that humans and Kellians together can accomplish things neither species could manage alone. When they returned to Kelly Prime, Emperor Vex greeted them as heroes. The successful defense had proven that cooperation between their species created something greater than either could achieve independently. Daughter, the Emperor said, your research has saved both our civilizations. I was wrong to dismiss your work. From now on, you will have all the resources and support you need to continue your scientific research. Thank you, Father, Neera said. And I have decided I would like to marry Leo after all. Not as a diplomatic arrangement, but as a personal choice based on love and mutual respect. Emperor Vex looked surprised, then pleased. Are you certain this is what you want? Neera looked at Leo, who smiled back at her with those warm brown eyes. I am certain, she said. This is my choice, and it is the right choice. The wedding ceremony that took place 3 days later was very different from the political necessity it had started as. It was a celebration of two people who had chosen each other, and two species who had learned that their differences made them stronger together. As Neera and Leo exchanged vows in front of representatives from both worlds, she knew that their partnership would continue to create innovations and discoveries that neither human nor Kellian science could achieve alone. Their marriage was no longer a diplomatic tool, but the foundation of something much more valuable, a true alliance built on understanding, respect, and love.